Hello. Nice to see you, all of your bright, shining, smiling faces out wherever you are. Thank you for joining me today. I want to talk to you about WordPress, specifically about the WordPress container. The WordPress container, as designed by WordPress, well, it's not really a very good container, in my opinion. It does what it needs to do if you're deploying WordPress for the first time, and in that regard, it kind of feels like a proof of concept to me. If you have nothing, and you deploy the WordPress container, 5.5.3 for example, then you get an installation of WordPress running 5.5.3. But later, if you download the container image for 5.6 and update your deployment, you don't get 5.6. You're still running 5.5.3. Or if you were running 4.9, you're still running 4.9. Nothing actually changes. And that goes against the whole idea of what containers are for. A few years ago, literally 3 years ago, I decided to fix this. And I've been running a different version of WordPress ever since, my own container that solves this problem. Somebody asked me if I would share it, and so here I am. When I run a container, I expect that when the container image updates to a later version, I can bring that image down and run it, and that's the version that I'm going to get. In order to do this with WordPress, we need to take advantage of functionality that's already present in WordPress to separate WordPress core from your content. And when we do that, we can now run new container images with new versions of WordPress, and the core of WordPress is updated. So if you're running 5.5.3 and you bring down the 5.6 image and restart, you're now running 5.6, and the only thing you have to do is click that little button that says update the database, and you're up. No more problems, no more questions, no more separation of concerns between what version of WordPress am I running versus what version of WordPress is the container supposed to be running. No conflicts, no problems. And it's surprisingly easy to do. I'll show you. And if you stay until the end, I'll show you how you can also run WordPress using Polyscripting from Polyverse to defeat all zero-day attacks. So if you've been staying away from WordPress because of security concerns, this might solve your questions. Solve your questions, answer your questions, solve your problems. Just stay to the end and watch. Come on. To get started, let me first introduce you to the container as it's running. I have it running out in a Kubernetes cluster. I also have the polyscripted one running, but we'll show you that at the end. If we jump into it, you will see that instead of just putting everything into var www HTML, we're putting it into var www HTML release. Our actual content goes into var www HTML shared. So inside of release, we have an empty index.php that just says, go load the WordPress entry point, and then all of the actual WordPress core content lives under var www HTML release WordPress. Inside of shared, we have htaccess, the actual WP config.php, which is symlinked to the other location, and then all of the rest of our stuff in WP content, including, this is just a stock installation, but like uploads will appear here, and any writable stuff that is your content will live here. Now, to make all of this happen, you simply need one additional variable in your deployment. This is running in Kubernetes, because if you're not running it under Kubernetes, you probably aren't watching my channel anyway. Under Kubernetes, we need a config map and a secret. The config map contains the WordPress variables that you're used to, db host and db name, and the secret contains db user and db pass. Technically, db user could go into the config map if you wanted it to, but whatever. The extra variable is WordPress URL. This is the full path to the full This is your complete URL to your WordPress site, including HTTP or HTTPS and no trailing slash. That last part's very important. If you have a trailing slash, weird stuff happens. So just HTTP or HTTPS and then your site domain. So give me just a second. Let me go through and nuke everything, and then we'll come back and we'll start it from scratch. I have 2 directories here that are built with customized templates, just to make things easier for templating. We're going to start in the normal directory by just running kubectl apply-k. This will run off and create all of our resources. Now I use Solo's glue as an API gateway, so if you're going to use this, you may want to change that out to an ingress instead of a virtual service, but that's on you. This is just a demonstration of how it works. This should take just a moment to start. And you'll see here we are. Now, all of these files get built by the Docker entry point. So it recognized that we had nothing in the shared directory when it was created. And in fact, I could jump out to the NAS again and show you that that directory that I deleted is back and now has content in it. Actually, all right, so the directory that I deleted is actually not the directory because this was created with a storage class. What it did was archived the old directories. And now you'll see that we have this new directory here that was created just a minute ago. It's 1520, it was created at 1519. The old WP test directory was from an earlier WP test because I've been doing this for a while. So with that running, we can now jump over to a browser, go to WP test, should redirect us to an install. We're gonna say continue, site title, WP test, username, admin, password, super secure password. Yes, I confirm that it is terrible. Yes, I'm willing to share my email address with the internet. And there we go. Go ahead and log in. And it's a fully functioning WordPress installation. Fully functioning. You can install themes, you can do all of this stuff. It changes the config so that when you try to upload stuff, it just does it direct instead of having to connect over FTP and all that other stuff that doesn't work with Kubernetes and containers. So you'll be able to upload files directly into here, but the hope is that if you need to install a theme, you can just like drop the file into wherever you need it to go on your backing storage. You're smart, you can figure that part out. The important part is that these things are separate. Now you can see, for example, that WordPress 5.6 is available. So let's first create a piece of content and then let's do an upgrade. Welcome to the block editor. Add title, piece of content. Start writing, block of content. Next block, third block. Okay, I think we're done. Publish. Are you ready to publish? Yes, I said publish. View. Look at that. We have a piece of content and we are running on WordPress 5.5.3. Let's imagine that you were doing an update. Every WordPress installation is going to have its own set of PHP libraries according to the plugins that you're running, so I don't expect that you will actually run my container stock. So you'll clone my repo, make a branch, and then edit the Docker file to build whatever it is that you want. To do the whole WordPressy magic bit, though, goes like this. There's actually an install. There's an install file that tells you what you need to do. That's a lie. That tells you how to install it. There's a README file that tells you what you need to do an actual update. And it's basically just this set of commands right here. Let me open this off to the side so that I can follow along. And then we'll follow along. Yeah. Do I want to stay in the Polyscripted branch? Sure. We're in the top level here. There is a directory called site that actually contains site-related content. Inside of there, you will see a WordPress directory. This looks exactly like the release directory that I just showed you on the actual system itself. So we need to cd into WordPress, run git submodule update -- remote, run git fetch -- tags. It's going to go out and actually pull down all of the content. And you'll see now that we have a new tag for 5.6. Whoops, 5.6. Okay, good. So let's do a git checkout. I forgot, was it just 5.6? Is it still on the screen? Yes, it was just 5.6. Okay. Git. I always tag my stuff with v5 dot whatever because I like the v part to indicate that it's a version number. Git checkout 5.6. Now what we have is a local submodule pulled from the actual WordPress source Git repository, and we've checked out 5.6. So this has nothing to do with Docker containers. We now have right here the complete 5.6 source code for WordPress in a directory in our container build environment. Let's jump up. Let's just add the submodule information so that it knows that it was updated. Git commit -m update to 5.6. And now we can just run a build. So for that, let's jump back up to here and we'll run docker build -t Monachus WordPress v5.6. Oops, we'll give it a dot. And this will take a few minutes to build. And when it's done, we'll deploy it. And I'll show you the rest of it. So this is the part where the thing goes, woo. What's cool about this is that you could use this to deploy any version of WordPress using the same Docker build environment. You can just cd into there, run git checkout the version that you care about, and then cd back up and run a Docker build. So if you have sites that are running 4.9 something, 4.8, 4.7, 5.3, 5.1, whatever, you can do them all from here. The way that this would normally work for me is I would make these changes and then I would do a git push, and this repo is stored in GitLab. So that uses GitLab CI to actually build the image based on the tag and then push it out to Docker Hub. So if you want to actually test this, you can just go to pull Monachus /WordPress v5.6 or v5.5.3 or any of the other tags that are out there. In fact, 553 has an edit, so it's 553-1. But you can pull those down and test out running the actual WordPress container yourself. And it's done. Docker push Anarchus WordPress v5.6. Push that out. Boo. Yay, it's done. Okay. Just quick recap here, so you know where we are. We went into, so we cloned my repo, theoretically. You made whatever magical edits you needed to make to, Docker file for it to build your WordPress the way you want it to. We went into the site WordPress directory. We ran git submodule update and then git fetch with tags. So we pulled from the core WordPress git repo. We checked out the version that we cared about. We CD back up. We built our image from that. We tagged our image and we pushed it out to Docker Hub. Or you can push it to a local registry, or you can push it to wherever you want. Now, this is not anything special. This has no local content in it. The most that this has is PHP modules for any plugins that you're running in your specific environment. That's the only thing. If you're not running anything special that needs anything special, the actual Docker build from this is taken from the upstream WordPress container with like a couple modifications just to put stuff into the right directories. Otherwise, you might just be able to run it stock and be fine. We have our WP test. Let's actually just edit. Let's come back over here. Pretend we're doing things GitOpsy. Okay, so we just edited that. Let's do k-apply-k dot. Updated the deployment. We can watch that roll out. It's actually going to take a while for it to pull, so. When this happens, I like to come over and watch it happen on NetData. Where's my browser? If you don't run NetData, you should really run NetData. NetData is amazing. So I have NetData plugged into all sorts of devices in my environment, including my Edge firewall. And if we jump down here to network interfaces, and then we can see, hey, look at that. It's a Docker pull. It's maxing out one of my internet connections. Pull, 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 pull. Okay, that says it's successfully rolled out. Oh, well, that's terrible. That failed because I ran it from the Polyscripted directory and not from the upstream default master directory, and I have the image mounted in the wrong place. Okay. I'm going to leave that in the video. We're just going to fix this. The Polyscripted directory, as you'll see in a second, the Polyscripted directory puts things in a different place and then copies them to where they want to be because it makes changes to them. I shouldn't have run it from the Polyscripted directory for the non-Polyscripted container, so that's confusing. Pretend that didn't happen. All right, I need to change that because I made a mistake, so I had to push another image, but it's unrelated to anything that I'm actually trying to demonstrate to you. It's just the daemon of demonstration. Okay. If all is good, we should now be able to come back over here. Refresh. And get that page that says database update required. Let's update the WordPress database. And now we're running on WordPress 5.6. That's it. It's that easy. I don't actually know where to get it to tell me. There it is, down in the bottom corner. Version 5.6. That's how it's supposed to work. That's how containers work. You update the container image and the actual core software that you're using gets updated and your own content stays off to the side and is unaffected. Now I have all this running with the shared directory on an NFS share, so I can run multiple containers and do all the load balancing, and all of this just works. The only change you need to make is to separate your stuff, put it into var .html shared, your WP content directory, and there's instructions in the README on how to do that, and then add that new variable, and that's all. But if you want to take this one step further, you can do it with Polyscripting. Polyscripting is a utility from Polyverse. That's just absolutely amazing. Polyverse makes polymorphing and then polyscripting. Polymorphing does real-time recompilation of all of the binaries in an operating system. And in fact, you can pay them to get access to build farms or to get access to, Ubuntu. Well, you can pay them to get access to features. Some of their stuff is available for the community and then some of it's paid. But you can go to their site and figure out what's what. But polyscripting is just available. And you can run this to recompile scripted languages that are interpreted, like PHP. And it will recompile PHP and relink everything and rename all of the functions so that if there was a particular compromise for a library, a memory register, a buffer overflow, none of that stuff works anymore because it's all in different places and all with different names. So if we wanted to run a polyscripted version of this, that's basically the same. Now, I don't have this pushed out there yet, but there's another Docker file in here called dockerfile.pv, and it's the whole same thing as everything else, but down in the bottom, it copies in some slightly modified entry point and then some stuff from Polyverse itself. We actually do the same thing here that we do with WordPress, where I pull down their repo as a submodule and then pull stuff out of it to build the final image. To activate this, you need to add an additional variable of polyscript mode set to anything other than off. So if it's missing or if it's set to off, it will launch WordPress without any of the obfuscation stuff that it does. If it's set to anything else, then it launches it and scrambles everything and you're good to go. When you run polyscripted versions, well, actually, let me start it and then I'll talk to you about the caveats associated with it. Except I just tagged it v5.6 instead of v5.6.0-pv, which is actually what I want to tag it. And let's push that. And it'll be able to pull most of this from the upstream Polyverse container. So all of this caching should make that go relatively quickly as well. Now, to talk about what caveats exist when you're running it polyscripted. It will take longer to launch because at launch time, it recompiles and relinks everything. So each container is actually different from the container running alongside of it. Stuff is in a different place, but all of it is renamed, relinked, reconnected, re-everythinged to just work. The Docker build copies stuff, instead of to var HTML release, it copies it to /WordPress/release. And then there's also a /WordPress/shared, which is where you need to mount your persistent volume. So your content that you previously had mounted on var HTML shared now goes on /WordPress/shared. The reason for that is because when the container starts and it does its whole recompilation, it also copies your WordPress content and the WordPress source into var HTML. Then it scrambles it. So your upstream stuff, your content isn't messed up. It just stays there. But what's actually rendered is recompiled and scrambled and obfuscated. This allows you to run multiple containers, even with the same NFS backing storage, because each container gets scrambled from the source. What it also means is that containers are much larger because they contain the entire toolchain inside of them so that it can recompile stuff. And it also means that they take longer to start. And it also means that you can't make changes to the actual WordPress content other than stuff that goes into the database. So that means you can't upload themes. You can't upload, themes, plugins. So anything that's actual compiled content, you need to relaunch it or have a side container that uses the source, not the scrambled content, and then make your updates there, and then relaunch your scrambled containers, and they'll re-scramble everything. So there's a little bit more activity involved, but what you get in exchange for this layer of pseudo immutability is 100% protection against zero-day attacks. So anything that's out there that is a known vulnerability or an unknown vulnerability in PHP, in WordPress, you're now safe. You're protected from it. So if you can't update WordPress for some reason, for example, maybe there's a theme that isn't updated for WordPress 5, and so you're stuck on WordPress 4. As it gets older, it gets more vulnerable. Wrap it in this, no more problems. Let's launch this. I have a separate customization environment that uses the original one, but just patches it. So it'll patch the deployment. Let's fix that. To run 5.6.0. And let's turn Polyscript mode on. You can set that to anything. Just what happens if it's not set is it symlinks var HTML to the actual locations in /WordPress so that the site just runs fine. Mount path is going to change it to mounted on /WordPress/shared. And the virtual service is just going to change the virtual service to use a different hostname and a different upstream. This does take several minutes to start, so we'll be right back. If we watch the logs, you'll see that it recompiles everything. We could probably make this happen during the build phase, but what you would end up with is a container image that is accessible with known destinations. So if somebody were to gain access to that, well, then they could just go and gain access to all of your stuff anyway. Having it recompile everything per container is just crazy. It means that even if they were to get onto one container and figure it out, their next request might land on a different container where nothing's going to work anymore. When I first encountered Polyverse, it was actually with polymorphing, and I was absolutely blown away by it. Polyscripting being accessible, I don't know why everybody isn't just running this. It's such a simple and elegant and beautiful solution to an unsolvable problem. It's like, just why not? Why not? Ooh, and there we go. Polyscripting is done. It has polyscripted 1,509 files. Let's go look at what that means. So first of all, let's go look at /WordPress. And you'll see that we have manifest mount, shared, it's just on a different mount point. Okay, great. That was copied over to here. And if we were to look at all right, so look here. Define, DB name, wtest, WP test. But notice it's got these other symbols in there because these things have been renamed to be different. So for example, there's the define. Here, like, you don't even know what that means. They're genuinely scrambled into unrecognizable things, recompiled, relinked. PHP still works exactly this, like the things all still work. They've just been renamed, recompiled, repointed, moved around, shuffled, and hidden from bad people. Like that down there. It's crazy. And I know I keep saying that, but like you get into here and you start playing with it and you'll realize like it's genuinely crazy. It's so awesome. If we go into the release directory, wow, garbage, but garbage that works. Cat, WP, blog, header. There you go. Polyscripted WordPress attached to a container image with a version that you can update to update your WordPresses. It's like Inception or something. It's probably actually nothing like Inception. You never realize Inception was in like 2010. I should probably come up with a new meme. But let's go actually see that it really worked. We're running this on poly-wptest.cl.monakas, and there's our actual content. I mean, it's not super exciting because it's just like a stock blank boring WordPress site. But if we were to go to the admin site, oh, interesting. I made a mistake. I did not update WordPress URL. So rather than fix this in the config map and so on, actually, you know what, let's just, rather than fix this in customize, let's fix this in the config map. Otherwise, I have to live make a patch and do all that other stuff. Let's just do this. Okay, edit config map. So what happened there is it went back to the other WP test site, and that's not what we wanted. So we need to update WordPress URL, because remember, that's the core thing that makes all of this work. And now we need to nuke our pod. And it'll go start another one. I'm gonna go get a sandwich. We'll come back in like 10 years. It's just gonna take a few minutes for it to recompile everything. All right, it's finally back up and running. So let's try this little demonstration thing again. That's actually not where we wanna go. We wanna go to, let's refresh that. And if we come down here to the admin site, log in. That takes me to there. That takes me to there. We're still in PolyWP test. So back here on the admin site, still in the totally scrambled PHP universe, we can make another post. Other piece of content. What's on your mind? Lots of things. Save draft, really? Can I publish that? Oh, because it's a quick draft thing. I'm so totally not a WordPress user, can you tell? Which makes you probably wonder, why am I building a WordPress container? Because I know WordPress people, and it was a problem that needed to be solved. What more reason do I need? All right, I have published it. Let's view the post. Other piece of content, good to go. And interestingly, if we go back to the non-polyscripted site, they're both pointing at the same database and the same backend. Oh, are they the same backend? They're actually not the same backend. They're different. They're different backends. So we're not going to show you that. So there you go. Other piece of content. Yeah. There you go. I don't really have any fancy way to close this video, other than to say, yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Holy cow. Hello, Polyverse. Thank you for being amazing. And thanks to all of you who come and watch the Coffee and Cloud Native live streams, which are every weekday morning at 7:30 Eastern. We're on pause at the moment. If you're watching this, well, it's December 29th. So we'll be back on January 4th. But if you're watching this in the future, we're probably already back. So hopefully I'll see you there, or I'll see you in Discord. Links to all of that stuff will be in the video description. Have a great and safe and happy holiday. Thanks for watching. Oh. Stay caffeinated.